sorry to wake you. I forgot to tell you something. The things I tell you will not be wrong.
I left Dublin on to Berlin at the end of February and came back from the Maluku Islands and Indonesia to Berlin back to Dublin at the beginning of April, to a world that had changed, physically at least. Watching from over there, it was the lockdown moment in Ireland, especially the cancellation of St. Patrick's Day Parade, that began to move my opinion away from the conspiracy theory that any questioning and non-scientifically trained mind was bound to investigate. Chief among conspiracy theorists was and is, of course, David Icke, and thankful we must be to him and all challengers for a life work warning of systems, elites, and technologies that threaten human freedom of action and speech, and which already have formed a narrative explaining why our species is where it is now. Radical and unorthodox opinions are as important to hear as those more constrained, and I think the wider the opinion base, the greater the quality of decision making when based on facts, although the slower that process will be. There is now, of course, one foundation block for a true revolution in democratic decision making: the internet. But there is another source of information that had its own and very powerful view explaining the worldwide lockdown in response to the virus COVID-19. A source of knowledge, the accuracy of which has more than impressed me. That is, of course, astrology. When I did an internet search for the coronavirus and astrology, I found a world of information about the rare and very, very powerful conjunction of two heavyweight planets of the zodiac in the sign of Capricorn, the sign representing work, ambition, systems, management and career, government, economy, and financial organizations. These two planets are Pluto, the destroyer and creator, planet of death and rebirth, and Saturn, reaper of the harvest sown, limits that cannot be crossed, a judge of what must be done, a redesigner using hard-gained wisdom over time. Saturn emphasizes the need for realism, hard work yielding long-term results, duty and responsibility. It is conservative and practical, governing physical life, career and ambition. It limits and constrains with that wisdom. Saturn is a huge, dense planet and is the guardian of threshold, the last planet we can see with the naked eye from Earth, and therefore master of the physical realm, beyond which are the three planets of Uranus, Neptune and Pluto, the three mysterious planets, because they cannot be seen with the naked eye from Earth. Pluto governs disaster, physical disaster, death and the fear of death, the unseen and the unknown side of life. It brings destruction in order for survival, for rebirth, physical survival when its power is drawn from deep within our subconscious. It's about power over external circumstances, driving us towards destruction and improvement of our systems, and an end to ingrained behavior, death of the old self and rebirth of the new. To give an idea of the power Saturn-Pluto conjunction have. And when they last crossed in Capricorn, it was the year of January 1518. Very notable because 3 months before, Martin Luther had nailed his 95 Thesis to the church door here at Wittenberg in today's northern Germany. The Disputation on the Power and Efficacy of Indulgences was a list of questions and propositions for debate, which amounted to a demand for revolutionary reforms at the centre and the structure of the Holy Roman Church, which of course at that time in Europe and in its developing colonial empire was at the heart of the authoritative and financial status quo of the time. Remember that the Reformation was about a reform of the Church, which couldn't happen without destruction and rebuilding, a combination of Plutonian power and Saturn wisdom. On the other hand, the same conjunction in the same year between these two planets in Capricorn, the house of management and hard work, saw Charles I, king of one of the most powerful countries in the world at the time, Spain, make an agreement with Portuguese traders, allowing Spain to send slave ships directly from Africa to the Americas north and south, setting the basis for radical conflict in both North and South America, perhaps the most dramatic event of which was the American Civil War in the 1860s and the Civil Rights Movement in the 1960s.
All we say to America is be true to what you
This conjunction is a huge reality check around, most importantly, the attitude we have to our planet and to all of the life we have on it. Populations with the greatest responsibility for delivering a change for the good are the planet's wealthiest societies. Societies with physical wealth, but also spiritual depth and intellectual power and knowledge, and emotional wealth or stability. Can the Western world lead humanity into a new era of positive relationship? Or will neoliberalism, Thatcherism, Reaganomics gain through its deceit and our own failure at the personal level to change what we know must be ended? The cult of materialism, the religion that replaced collapsed traditional religion, at least in the West, Roman Christianity, is now facing its judgment because human survival is. The second great reality check is against the status quo, the political systems that have served and failed all of us, and by us I mean all life. Will democracy continue to decline, or will new media destroy or undermine the traditional media, state or privately owned, that have maintained the parameters of the paradigm, be it state-centered economy, two-party state corporation-driven neoliberalism, theocracy or dictatorship, or some other system? The third reality check is for our economic model, based both on production on the one hand and consumption on the other, and facilitated and controlled by an international financial order and a fractional reserve banking system, which has indebted most of the world's nations and checked creativity, stifled change for the long-term common good of most. For the long-term common good of most. To conclude, the famous death and tax quote, which went to the effect "'tis impossible to be sure of anything but death and taxes," needs to be replaced by another. Change is the only constant in life. The Greek philosopher Heraclitus has left us with that. Our economic model is dependent on our politics, and our politics is dependent on our spiritual clarity, our relationship with each other, and to our planet. In short, we broke our connection with nature and ourselves. At the heart of the enormous difficulty the human race is now in is the fractional reserve banking system, its operators, its elite, and our own apathy to change, and our ignorance of what can be manifest by enlightenment, our inspiration of what could be in utopia. The wake-up call has been sounded for decades, be it by Greta Thunberg most recently, or Dr. Martin Luther King in the more recent past. But as Jerry from Sligo would say, the bottom line is that the decision to close down economies and normal societies in order to protect life has struck the most dramatic worldwide physical change to the physical world created since 1945, largely then the urbanized world. That wake-up call, sounded for decades, has now been delivered. The great question is now,
If I stop to help this man, what will happen to me? But then the Good Samaritan came by, and he reversed the question. If I do not stop to help this man, what will happen to him? That's the question before you tonight. Not if I stop to help the sanitation workers, what will happen to my job? Not if I stop to help the sanitation workers, what will happen to all of the hours that I usually spend in my office every day and every week as a pastor? The question is not if I stop to help this man in need, what will happen to me? The question is, if I do not stop to help the sanitation workers, what will happen to them? That's the question.